My wife and I welcomed twins in November. We struggled to have children for a long time, 9 years, and had our twins via IVF. It was a long battle to have our babies, and when we chose their names, it was something we not only took seriously, but poured a lot of love into because we knew they would be the only children we would name. We chose the first names Ezra and Esme for the twins, but the length was the part of the choice for these names. Growing up, I had a long last name, 10 letters, and my parents gave me very formal and lengthy first and middle names, Frederick Lawrence, and I always found my name very stuffy and old-fashioned. So I go by a nickname derived from my middle name now. I also took my wife's much simpler last name when we married. So we announced the name of our twins when they were a day old. When we announced the names, we knew my parents might not be in love with them. Still, I stupidly believed the twins being born would be enough of a deterrent for a negative comment. About a week after their birth, my parents asked what kind of names they had and how we could give them such juvenile and incomplete names. I told them they were neither of those things, and they needed to be careful about how they spoke about their grandchildren's names. I thought they had listened, but then in January, they started calling them Winifred and Douglas. At first, we weren't positive they were talking about the twins, but then we were celebrating my niece's birthday, and my parents directly addressed my daughter as Winifred, and I knew it was them that they were talking to. So I told them those were not their names. They said those were the nicknames they had given them, and everyone has a nickname, and it's not like we gave them names that could lend themselves to nicknames. I said Ezzy and Essie if they really wanted nicknames. They ignored me, and they continued to use these nicknames. So we decided not to be around because on top of that, they were telling my siblings that the names they had chosen were better for my children. My siblings thought that they were crazy. My parents tried to see the kids a few times since, and I always told them no. Finally, they asked why, and I told them they don't get to see our children if all they can do is insult their names. My parents accused me of trying to control them and said nicknames are a part of life. I told them what they were doing wasn't giving a nickname, it was renaming my children in their own heads, and my wife and I don't want them renaming them. I also said we would not further encourage the use of these nicknames they gave them. My parents said if I had stuck to the family way of naming babies, none of this would be happening, and they said I was being unfair to them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. How? What? You can't turn Robert into Zachary. That's not a nickname. That's a whole other name. I have to rename the parents. From now on, Esmeralda and Gomez, and address them with those names on their birthday and Christmas cards. Sit back, relax, and don't forget the popcorn for the crap show that will unfold. This is brilliant. New names every single time they're addressed. What your parents are doing is bizarre. You can't just make up completely different names for people because you don't like them. It's disrespectful to you and confusing for the kids. I wouldn't want to be around them either. Your parents sound like narcissists, and they're bullying you. Exactly. The names you and your wife chose are lovely. Your parents are straight up cuckoo banana pants. Douglas and Winifred, for babies now, are terrible names. Okay, Winnie's cute, but that's not the point. If you want to be petty, now only give your parents personalized gifts. Ezra loves Nana mug. Esme loves her grandpa tea. Number 1 grandparents to Ezra and Esme, hand towels, keychains, mouse pads, beach towels. But I'm petty. Names are important. If your twins want to someday change their names, fine. Not the grandparents. You went through so much to have your babes, and congratulations. My ex and I have a teen daughter together. My ex and her husband wanted to take my daughter and their kids on a trip. My daughter hates going on trips with her mom. Some of her reasons are that they get one room for all the kids. Her half-siblings are a nearly adult female and a preteen male, and she hates sharing a room with them. A lot of the activities are child-friendly because of her younger brother, which she finds boring. Also, it was a 13-hour drive, which she finds really tiring. They either eat homemade food or eat in low-quality restaurants to save more money, and my daughter hates low-quality food. Her mom insisted that she needed to go with them, so I decided to make this more pleasant for her. I talked to her mom and decided to go to that city and spend time with my daughter. For example, whenever they wanted to do a child-friendly activity, I take my daughter somewhere else, and she agreed. My daughter and I decided to go by plane because we both hated being on the road for a long time. Then when we were there, I got a room for her, so she didn't have to share with anyone. We would eat breakfast together in a really nice restaurant, and then she'd spend time with her mom's family until lunchtime. Then I would take her out and bring her back after dinner. Now my ex is saying I'm an idiot for ruining their trip. Apparently, this is not what she agreed to. I made her other kids jealous because they had to watch their sister get a room for herself and eat better food and come back from shopping with her handful of new stuff. I wonder if I actually was the idiot. I mean, she agreed that I be there and spend time with my daughter. So I don't understand why she's suddenly acting like this. You are the idiot. Of course it would create animosity between the siblings to have such different experiences. Why would the nearly adult child enjoy stuff for the younger sibling any more than your daughter would? You're creating a self-centered monster who won't cope well in the real world if she's too good for low-quality food as a teen and can't handle a family vacation. How will she handle work experiences? College? She won't handle work experiences either. She'll just quit and blame it on her coworkers. What I find so depressing about these things is often when the kids are 19 or 20, after years of being entitled and pampered, the parents get angry because their kid is now considered a bratty adult and they want to cut the kid off and toss them out because they act exactly the way they were raised to act. I'm getting idiot vibes from you because you seem to look down your nose on eating homemade food and low-quality restaurants to save money. You're raising your daughter to be a pretentious snob. It was an idiot move to send your daughter back to her mom and siblings with new stuff from shopping sprees. You could have kept that stuff in your room. My gut tells me you enjoyed rubbing all of this in your ex's face. Yep, your interference was ridiculous. The only time it's appropriate to interfere with the other parent when co-parenting is if harm is being done. Sharing a hotel room with siblings is normal. Eating homemade food is not a problem. Eating at cheap restaurants is fine. Road trips are fine. Sounds like you still hold resentment towards your ex and use your money to make sure your daughter prefers spending time and money with daddy instead of mommy. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you're acting coy here. I, 31 female, am currently doing my residency in internal medicine. It's brutal, but I should be finished in December. I have 5 cousins on my dad's side. Most of them have non-health related careers, but Andy, 32 male, is a chiropractor, and Kayla, 26 female, is a nurse practitioner. Now, my dad's family has had at least 1 or 2 doctors in every generation. My grandpa and his brother were family medicine. My dad is a urologist, and one of my aunts is a pediatrician. When I was in high school and college, my grandparents used to talk about how I would carry on the tradition and be the first doctor in my generation of our family. My other cousins were very clear. They weren't interested. Last weekend, we had a celebration with my dad's side. At the table, my grandma asked about my residency and how happy they were to see me as the first doctor of my generation. Then Andy butted in and pointed out that he and Kayla are also doctors. I was frankly annoyed and a little tipsy, so I told him that a chiropractor and a nurse practitioner aren't the same as a physician. Chiropractic is pseudoscience and can even be dangerous for patients. Nursing is a great career, and I'm proud of my cousin for getting her nurse practitioner, but being a nurse practitioner is its own distinct thing. Andy got cranky and called me privileged and arrogant. Kayla kind of took my side, but then said something about how nurse practitioner school is just as challenging as medical school, and that it's only devalued because nursing is a historically female career path. My grandpa interjected to tell them both to take a seat, that they weren't doctors and shouldn't be claiming to be such. After lunch, Kayla pulled me aside and uninvited me to her private practice grand opening next month. She said she only wanted people cheering her on to attend, and she felt like it was best if I skipped. I didn't really want to go anyway. I have very limited free time, so I said I respected that. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They sound insecure, and Andy is a jealous one. Kayla should know better than to conflate nursing with being a physician. I agree with Kayla that nursing has been historically devalued due to its traditionally female career. I also think Kayla needs to lighten up a bit. Yep, if they wanted to be physicians, they should have studied medicine. Being a nurse is not the same as being a doctor. I really respect nurses, but again, they're two distinct things. Next time, let Grandma and Grandpa handle it. Clearly, Grandma's already agreed with you, and you could have sat back and let Andy lose his own argument. Yeah, chiropractors are quacks. If you have actual muscular issues, go to a good physical therapist. It's harder with NPs. Most NPs I've worked with seem a bit touchy about their level of training. I'm a physician. I did literally 10 years of med school residency and fellowship. During residency, I usually put in 80-hour weeks and spent every fourth night in the hospital. Many NPs now do a 3-year program after never being in medicine at all. Most of the medical errors I see in misdiagnosis or really questionable decisions come from NPs. I also have a family member who's an NP. I avoid this subject completely because it can only end with bruised feelings. You are the idiot. Should you have said it? No. You should have kept quiet and made fun of them later in an online doctor's forum or something to get it out of your system. But I can see why you did it. It was totally unnecessary to bring attention to that in front of everyone. I'd like to point out that I'm on Team Kayla. Nursing has been historically devalued. I also commend her for how she handled herself, and kudos for her private practice opening. I'm 31. This was 2 weekends ago. I work for a rather small firm. There are 12 employees in total. Since we exceeded our yearly goals for 2022, we were treated to a weekend stay at a golf resort. I don't love golf, but I can play. The owners are big fans. I'm also one of 3 women employed. I'm the youngest. The other 2 are a few years older than me. They also had a pool, tennis, gym, and all the fun things a resort needs. On Sunday, I took some time to lay out by the pool and have some cocktails. I was told we would all eat a late lunch at the poolside restaurant. I met everyone there. The other 2 women told me it was gutsy to wear what I was wearing. I was wearing a somewhat athletic bikini. The bottom was full coverage and was almost like shorts, and the top resembled a sports bra more than anything else. The other 2 women told me I should be old enough to know that was stupid, and they even accused me of wanting to show off to the men. Now, these other women are in good shape, so I can't say that they're jealous. They're definitely able to rock bikinis, so maybe I didn't think this through. But I purposely bought this suit for this trip. I thought it was as plain Jane as can be. I mean, is it very inappropriate to show my belly? Because that was all that was different between my swimsuit and theirs, was that my stomach was showing. Are they idiots, or am I missing something here? Edit. I was not wearing the swimsuit at lunch. I walked up to the place in it and put my cover-up on as we sat down. The restaurant was outside and next to the pool. Nobody was dressed up. You are the idiot. Why did you put clothes on at the table and not before? You draw a lot of attention getting dressed at the table than if you would have thrown the cover-up on before meeting up with your colleagues. Why wouldn't you just put it on when you stand up at the lounge? You won't tan in that 30-second walk, and at least you've got the space to shake it out, etc. Why by the sun longer? It wasn't like lunch was a long way away. Maybe she was still wet and wanted the extra 30 seconds to dry off. I don't understand what the big deal is with this. This mob acted like she took a limo to the restaurant instead of walking from the pool to the poolside restaurant. Seriously, like, what did she walk? All of maybe 100 feet or something? Everybody in here is shaming OP for being an evil, distracting female. Case in point, nobody would give a flying heck if Stephen J. Businessman had been swimming and walked up to the outdoor table shirtless before donning his cover-up. But because OP is a female and looks good in a bikini, she should have been more professional? Hypocritical double standard, misogynistic BS. Not the idiot, but I would be careful in the future. They're your work colleagues, and keeping a mostly professional vibe should always be expected, even when doing off-site events. Like if you wanted to wear a string bikini, technically that's not illegal or inappropriate for the occasion, but then your coworkers might think about you wearing a string bikini from now on, even when you're in the office. I'm not saying what you wore was inappropriate because, gasp, midriff, but I wouldn't want my boss or any other coworkers picturing me in anything revealing when we're back at work. When you're doing anything remotely work-related, even if you're off the clock, you're on the clock. I met my husband 7 years ago when my son was a toddler. We got pregnant with our daughter only 2 months after dating, his only biological child. Things are actually absolutely fantastic in our relationship, despite rushing into things. There have hardly been any issues until recently. My son's tween birthday is coming up soon, and we had always told him we would get him a phone for his birthday. He has honestly been harping on us since he was a young tween because all of his friends had a phone, and he felt like the oddball. I felt terrible and wanted to cave several times, but didn't because my husband and I had already decided together that we would get him one by a certain age. Now that his birthday is right around the corner, he's very fixated and excited that he'll be able to get a phone. He's fully expecting it, which I already knew would happen because of how many times we told him, when you're this age. Well, I was looking at phones online the other day that had some parental controls and all that happy jazz, and my husband decided at this moment that he doesn't think my son is old enough for a phone and that he should have to wait until he's at least a mid-teen. I told him that absolutely was not happening, but entertained his reasoning to figure out the why. He said that basically he didn't want my kid to have access to any form of social media, and he feels that getting him a phone would be forcing him to grow up too fast and be subjected to the media and ignorance. I reiterated that this was our deal with my kid and that I wasn't going to go back on it. I don't even agree with his reasoning, to be 100% honest with you, but I didn't tell him that. I just said that I wasn't going back on a promise. He argued it for easily 30 minutes, saying no, he doesn't even need a phone, before I finally told him that he had absolutely no say on this, and I was getting my kid a cell phone. He snaps back with, then it had better be a flip phone because I don't want him on the darn internet. He hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the idiot? Half of my friends are on my side, but the other half says I need to consider what he's saying. My husband hates mainstream media and talks about it at least once a week. Not the idiot. Sorry, but to push this issue another 3 years after making your son wait will shatter any trust he has in you both. Better to make rules, use parental software effectively, and teach him responsibility rather than alienate him like this. Also, your husband is dead wrong. The kid needs to learn how to use a smartphone safely and sensibly. At his age, your relationship is still close, and you can guide him. By mid-teen years, his peers will be first, and they'll have been on the internet for 5 years or more. LOL at adults who think they can keep their kids off the internet. My sister gave her kids phones when they turned 10. This is only because her son skipped grades and ended up in the class surrounded by tweens, with pretty much everyone having phones. And to be fair, the other got hers at the same age. Though both were pretty mature at that age, my sister kept a close eye on them because she wanted them to wait until they were your son's age. The kids never abused that privilege. My personal opinion is your kid responsible enough for a phone? If you trust your kid to come to you in times of problems, he's ready for one. Just teach them basic internet safety. Yeah, this issue is not about a phone and will be more of a thing the older your son gets. Your husband is afraid because he knows the more your son is exposed to the world, the more chance he has of realizing that perhaps your husband's views on certain things might be incorrect. I, 27 female, come from an extremely religious background, the kind where there are certain expectations and lifestyles you usually cannot get away from. However, I was fortunate because thanks to my academic success during high school and after a lot of support from my teachers, I could get away and go to an Ivy League university. That's where I discovered I was gay. I never came out, but I more or less drifted apart from my family over the years, mostly because I did not at all fit the description of their idea of an ideal woman. So we had a lot of issues and conflicts, including my lack of faith in religion that triggered them to keep contact with me to a bare minimum. They're not accepting of any same-gender relationship, and I thought I would spare them the toxic judgmental stares from people in their community. Therefore, I didn't let them know I was gay, that I was in love, or that I got married last year. I found out an old friend of a friend who knew us talked to my family about my wife and me. I only got a phone call from my oldest brother saying I was the filthiest idiot, a disgrace, and that I would be deemed dead from now on from my family's perspective. He also told me I stepped into another level of low by not telling them about my marriage, because then they could have cut contact sooner. My wife thinks that letting them know before we got married could have saved us a relationship with them. I've explained multiple times about the dynamic and why they told me what they did. However, I may have made a mistake. Should I have told them? Am I the idiot because I wasn't honest and lied to them for a year at least about my marriage? Your brother's call simply confirms that they aren't upset that you didn't tell them about the relationship and wedding from a, "We're hurt that you felt that you couldn't share this information with us, and we missed out on a beautiful memory of celebrating you and your wife" standpoint. They're upset because they couldn't repudiate you earlier with vile and hateful words. You made the right call by distancing yourself from your family. They don't sound like the type to set aside decades of misogynistic indoctrination because they choose to love and accept you unconditionally. And that is their loss. You are not the idiot. I hope that when your brother rang you and started calling you names, you laughed at him before hanging up in his ear. If your wife truly doesn't get it and keeps harping on about what you should have done differently, you might need to find a good therapist to help explain things to her. You've saved your wife a boatload of pain and emotional manipulation. She might feel that she lost something, but it's a rotten part. I was the filthiest idiot, a disgrace, and I would be deemed dead from now on in my family's perspective? Wow. Remember, all of this was said to you about being gay. Stepping into a new low about the marriage that came after. Repeat it to your wife till she gets it. I'm sorry that your family sucks the big one, but good riddance to bad rubbish. You're free. Grieve as much as you need to, and just keep building your life with the family you're making and with the friends that truly love and accept you and become family over time. My guess is that the wife comes from a more accepting family and has no idea what it's like to come from a terrible family. Some reasonable people are unable or unwilling to understand how unreasonable others can be. They think that with enough explanation, anything can be overcome. They're wrong, but OP may have difficulty convincing her wife of this because such people are often highly committed to such views. I hope she eventually understands that not all families are like hers and that this was probably for the best. I, 18 female, will name my sister Evie, 23. Evie isn't a nice or pleasant person. She never wants to spend time with family, and she really isn't appreciative of when we do nice things for her. Evie takes us for granted. When my parents have Evie come to anything, she complains and makes things very unpleasant for everyone else. But then when my parents respect her wishes and let her stay home, which is most of the time, Evie will tell others how she was abandoned at home and that she's the black sheep of the family. I recently created an account on social media, and Evie's account was recommended to me since her phone number is obviously in my list of contacts already. Important note, Evie's account was her real name and face, so anyone who saw the account would immediately know who she was, and therefore who my parents and I are. I looked at Evie's account and saw that Evie had been posting lies about our parents and me, using my real name, by the way. Evie basically wrote that we have narcissistic parents, and I'm the golden child, and she's the black sheep and scapegoat. Her evidence for this was stories where she deliberately left out context to make my parents look bad and herself like a victim. One example was her saying that I got to have twice as many extracurriculars as her and got to go to extracurricular activities 3 times a week, while she only got to go to one twice a month. I got 2 special lessons, one of them being speech therapy, which was a need and not an extracurricular, and my actual one extracurricular was art, which cost $12 a lesson. Her extracurricular activity was horseback riding, which cost over $100 a lesson. The money our parents spent on my art lessons every month wasn't even half the cost of Evie's horseback riding lessons. Another example was her saying that our parents didn't attend this specific event for her and never supported her passions. Evie told our parents she would have to do something embarrassing at that event and specifically asked that they didn't come. I could have tried to talk to Evie about this or kept the information to myself, but I was angry. So instead, I told our parents and showed them what Evie had been posting. Evie and my parents got in a big fight where they called Evie out for skewing the truth online to get clout at our expense. They gave her an ultimatum of either posting a public apology, deleting her account, or moving out. Evie deleted her account. I vented about everything that happened to my friend Mia. Mia said she knew Evie was skewing the truth, but that I screwed up by telling our parents because I gave my sister no opportunity to explain her side or change on her own. Mia usually gives good advice and good views on situations, so I'm worried she's right, and I was the idiot for telling our parents. Am I the idiot? Absolutely not the idiot. She's acting extremely entitled and has a victim complex. She's a grown adult woman who's had many years to change, and she needs to stop acting like a 14-year-old child. Telling your parents was the right thing to do, as she probably wouldn't have taken it down on her own anytime soon. I think she needs therapy to help her realize her actual situation. Evie wouldn't have changed if you had confronted her yourself, and she may well have escalated her lies. If she had been using pseudonyms, that would have been one thing, but with your real names attached, that's no joke. A 23-year-old should know better. Telling your parents and letting them deal with it was the best action in this case. How will she change on her own if she doesn't face the truth? She even chose to delete the account rather than tell the truth. So no, your friend is wrong. Okay, but why does Evie act like that? It's easy to say she's a spoiled narcissist, but I wonder what's her side of the story. OP's story sounds like every other single golden child's point of view I've ever heard, and I'm honestly guessing that Evie is at least somewhat of a glass child. Still, I don't agree with what she did. If she wanted to vent online, she could at least do that anonymously. Even better, she should have confronted your parents. I, 32 female, am a divorced mom of 2. My son is an older tween, and my daughter's a younger tween. My ex and I ended our relationship in 2017, and he remarried in 2021. His wife has no children of her own. This topic is the one that she approached a few times with me, starting when my ex first married her. She told me that now that they're a 2-parent household, I didn't need to attend all the games, recitals, plays, etc., because she would be going to them, and there only needed to be one. I ignored her because I've always gone to that kind of thing. I'm self-employed, so I can easily plan my working day around events for my kids. My kids also want me there. They always tell me about the more significant moments in their extracurriculars or school and tell me when I should be there or if I need tickets, etc. My ex goes when he can, which is not often, and he never goes to anything he doesn't consider big enough. My ex's wife mentioned to me again last year that she wanted to go alone, and I needed only to show up when it's my parenting time. Yet again, I ignored her request and continued showing up. My ex mentioned it to me also, and I told him that we could both go to their activities whenever we like, and the court order does not dictate it since it doesn't take parenting time to show up and support our children. My son had a recital a couple of weeks ago, and he told me they were asked if they could get parental volunteers. I said of course I would do it. My ex's wife had asked when she was picking him up from his dance class one day if she could do more. They mentioned volunteers and she offered. We both arrived together, and she was upset the whole 2 hours we were helping out. She was especially upset when I stayed. Afterward, she told me that she's trying to create a special bond with the kids, but they'll never want her around as long as I'm there. And if I was a good person/mom, I would do the right thing and not show up every time and give her a chance to do it so she can show an extra effort for my kids. I told her I would always show up as long as my kids want me and as long as I can physically do it. She told me her relationship with the kids is important though, and I honestly told her it's not important to me and that my kids' wishes and relationship with them are more important. My ex's wife told me I was an idiot, and she called me a selfish and jealous baby mama and accused me of unreasonable hatred. My ex also gave me a hard time about it afterward. Not the idiot. I suggest you keep a record of her remarks, what she says, when and where, in case it's useful in a parental alienation claim in the courts. And to call you the baby mama is entirely weird, since it's intended as an insult. You are your children's mother, full stop. She's trying to push you out of your own kids' lives. She told me that now that they're a 2-parent household, there was no need for me to show up. What a BS statement. Of course you're going to show up. You love your kids. You're their mother. She sounds unhinged and is trying to take your place as their mother. Oh dear. Your kids' new stepmom's trying to replace you in their lives. Your ex needs to pull his head out of his arse. If you can, or if you have a good friend your kids trust, carefully find out how she treats them and how she talks about you when they're under her care. Record it if you can. You may need it. Your kids need their mom. You. I am not white. My husband is. We have 2 kids. This conflict concerns our oldest, Jack, kindergartner. My husband has a half-sister, Anne, 23 years old, that he's not very close to. However, she gets along very well with Jack. She sometimes offers to take him on an auntie-nephew date, which I allow as I trust her. She's great with Jack, and he adores her as well. Anne is getting married in a couple of weeks. We were all invited, but my husband couldn't get time off work, and my mother will be visiting that weekend too, so we won't be able to attend. Anne asked if we could at least let Jack attend, and that she and my mother-in-law would watch him. I was hesitant, but Anne and my mother-in-law told me not to worry about it. I agreed. Then Anne told me that her father would be attending the wedding. I was surprised because she hadn't contacted him for years, but they reconnected for her wedding. In my opinion, her father isn't a very good person. He's extremely racist and very headstrong about his beliefs. He's also easily convinced by certain kinds of media, and before we even knew he was attending the wedding, my husband showed me his Facebook post, and they were genuinely insane. I told Anne, I don't know if my son will be attending anymore. She got what I meant and told me that her dad wouldn't even be able to tell Jack isn't 100% white, so I have nothing to worry about. I mean, yes, my son is white passing, but with the current climate of things, I refuse to risk it. My son will sometimes speak my language, and he's not 100% aware that he has to be careful around certain people. Anne got upset and told me that nothing would happen and that I was being paranoid. She even compared my paranoia to her father's. She then told me to think about it rationally, as the venue is a public place filled with people. I apologized and said I can't let him go. She started shouting at me and said I was ruining her wedding. She wants to spend it with everyone she loves, Jack included, and I'm ruining that by being paranoid. She started crying, I think, before hanging up. My mother-in-law called me later, saying that she swears nothing will happen to Jack and to please get over it for Anne's happiness. I said no. She told me that she hoped I'm proud of myself for breaking Anne's heart. I do feel bad, and I suppose I am being paranoid, but am I the idiot? My husband is more hesitant about the decision, but ultimately agreed that we can't risk anything. Not the idiot. She's a white woman, and she showed her true colors. It didn't take her long to bust out the white woman's tears either. Protect your son. Even hearing what that man has to say without you there to reassure and love on him could mess him up in the future. You have a right to be paranoid. Not sure I'd even use that term. Rightfully concerned sounds better. when it comes to your child's safety. You're absolutely right. He's a kindergartner. Even without all this, I would have had some hesitation about the situation. How on earth is the bride and mother of the bride going to be able to watch a 5-year-old? The mother-in-law is going to have the mother of the bride duties, and there will be many people there that OP doesn't know, especially since they aren't that close to the bride. OP, do whatever you think is best here. She said it herself. He won't even be able to tell Jack isn't 100% white, which implies that if he did find out, there would be issues, which makes me wonder if the other child whom she doesn't interact with looks more like you, OP. Stick with your guns, and if she's getting this worked up over pre-wedding stuff, then imagine what'll happen when Grandpa finds out little Jack is mixed and causes a scene on her big day. She'll probably find a way to blame you for it. She's inviting your child for selfish reasons. It feels like there's something more that she wants by having your son there, beyond the "I want to share it with the people I love" type sentiment. The kid is young. He will be bored stiff and will act up. She's got some ulterior motive beyond her stated intent. It wouldn't surprise me if she stated all sorts of things about how she's practically raised your son, and she would look bad if he weren't there, i.e. get caught on a lie. There's something more here. It was my teen male birthday yesterday, and I was opening the gifts that my parents had bought me. I've never been interested in sports. I find them really boring. I like painting and art way more, and my parents know that. Almost every birthday they give me sports-related gifts, football, some team merch, etc. I don't even know what some of it is because I could care less about sports. I asked my parents to get me a specific set of pens for my birthday. I've wanted them for ages. I opened my presents and every single one of them was sports-related. I just sat there and started crying in front of them. I didn't mean to cry, it was embarrassing, but I felt like they never listened to me. They've spent all this money on expensive gifts that they know I hate and will never use. I told them this, and they accused me of being ungrateful and said that I'd ruined the day. They sent me to my room, and I haven't really spoken to them since. Am I the idiot? Should I just be grateful that they got me anything at all? Not the idiot. What is wrong with your parents? Why would they think you would like this stuff? Are they trying to change who you are somehow? Or impose their own hobbies on you? Your parents are thoughtless jerks and bad gift givers, and this is a parenting fail. You should be ungrateful, and they ruined your day. They should make it up to you, not send you to your room. Get the receipts, take the gifts back, and exchange them. You're not crying over the gifts. You're crying over not being heard or understood. That's a valid response, and I'm sorry they aren't listening to you. Your parents are showing you that they don't respect your individuality. They're trying to funnel you into a certain presentation that they see as more typically masculine. Sell the gifts and get those desired pens. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your parents are projecting their view of what you should be onto you instead of letting you be yourself.